Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today I want to talk about a topic that I get emailed about constantly. In fact, I want to say that maybe about, at least once a day, I definitely get an email or a comment having to do with whether or not you should go to college. And I'm going to answer this question in regards to if you're going to get a job in the IT field. For other, type of work like being an accountant or becoming a lawyer or teacher, some of these things you do need to be, you do need to have a degree, and in some cases you have to pass the bar exam to be a lawyer, a CPA if you want to be a certified professional accountant, so on and so forth. I don't have the experience to give advice on that, but I'm talking in regards to the people that watch me, who are most of them are in the IT field, and specifically in Cisco networking or Microsoft servers, tracks. I want to go ahead and give an answer to that. The first thing I want to say is that there's really no right or wrong answer to give, and that's why I want to make this in a video format, because I really feel that, if I were to come up here and say you need to get a degree and there's no other way to do it, or you got to get your certs before you get your degree, there's going to be people that argue the pros and cons of both. And that's some of the things that I want to talk about in this video, is that there are definitely pros and cons to getting both, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. So first, I want to talk about the cons of only having a certification. Many people can get really far only having a certification. I've spoken to a lot of older gentlemen, older people who have been in the IT field for a while. Some of them only have, Network Plus, maybe a old MCSA certification, back in the NT 4.0 days, back when I was a kid, and a lot of them have gotten around just fine, but because they have built up a lot of experience along with that. So not only are employers hiring these individuals with certifications only because of their certifications, but they're mostly hiring them because they got experience, and experience really goes a long way in IT. I would argue that it actually goes much further than any degree or any certification can ever get you. So some of the cons of having a certification only with no experience to back it up is that eventually you might be able to land yourself a kind of help desk job or a very entry-level job, but you're going to have a little bit harder of a time when you got people that have their associate's degree in IT or their bachelor's like myself that are also applying for the job. Not because they have more experience than you, or not because any particular reason other than they have a 4-year degree. And if you're matched up with somebody that has no degree and somebody that has a degree, 0 years of experience, you're gonna get beat by somebody that has a degree. In most cases, unless it's maybe like a help desk position, they want somebody with a certification but not necessarily a degree, then perhaps it might help. What I've noticed a lot in some job markets, or in most job markets, is that they usually require at least a 2-year degree, if not preferably a 4-year degree. I've seen very few job listings out there that require no degree unless you have a huge amount of experience. By huge, I mean 7 or more years. So now let's talk about the cons to having a degree. Now, there are cons behind having only a degree, and I actually experienced that myself. At least I think I experienced that. I got my first certification, my CCNA, in May, and I graduated in May. I was applying for jobs before then, and I got a couple of leads, but some of them did require certifications. Some of them were more data analyst jobs, which did not require any kind of certification. I was able to, deal with it, with only having a degree or certification. However, what I see is a lot of employers, on top of that degree, they also want you to be, at the very least, exposed or certified in, Cisco, Microsoft, just so they can have that kind of a solid, like, okay, this guy has at least worked with this stuff and he's certified and he's supposed to know what he's doing. As opposed to somebody that doesn't have a certification and it's straight out of college. And in some colleges, it's all about, it's all about book knowledge, and it's not really so much about applying your actual knowledge, to server infrastructure and actually applying networks, building networks, and so on and so forth. So those are the cons to only having a degree and not having the certification. So some of the pros to having certifications is that, like I've said before, that you're proving to your employer that you are current with the technology and that you have exposure. A degree can never offer you that. Your degree can be 10 years old, will be 10 years old 10 years from now. Like if you get your degree today, 10 years from now, it's going to be a 10-year-old degree. And at that point, you have to think, okay, this guy learned about technology 10 years ago. So does that mean that he knows anything about technology today? And that's where certifications are great, because you have to keep those current. A lot of them you have to get recertified every 2 or 3 years or so. And that definitely helps out in many cases for you to prove to employers that you are current with technology. So the pros to having a degree are immense, in my opinion. Sure, a degree is very expensive, and it's very difficult to attain, and it takes a long time to attain. However, you will meet a lot less roadblocks. When you might be working help desk, you might move up to a network administrator position, but if you ever want to move up into the management or anything like that, like higher level, CIO, CTO, or maybe even project managers, you need to have that degree, or in many cases, you'll be completely roadblocked from making those kind of changes. Another thing that you want to keep in mind is, what if you go into IT and God forbid, right, that you end up not liking it? So now you have certifications in IT, but you're never going to use it because you don't like the field and you don't want to work in that field, which you should never do. You should never work in a field that you don't enjoy. And if you don't have a degree that backs you up, like mine, my degree is actually in business administration, in computer information systems. So I've learned a little bit about finance, marketing, management, all things having to do with business. And my other classes were things like security, business intelligence, business information technology, systems analysis. So I have a little bit of both in there, as well as some kind of quantitative analysis. So having that degree to back you up will allow me, I could find a job doing, more something like a project manager or an account specialist, or maybe even some kind of sales position, considering the fact that I have a degree in business. So there's definitely not a roadblock for me at this point, since I have both certifications and I also have a degree. And that's a point that I really want to hit home here, is that why not get both? And obviously this is very situational, and a lot of people might take it personal, but don't. I mean, it honestly really depends where you're coming from, what situation are you in, do you have kids, do you have liabilities, how many years of experience do you have in IT, do you want to move up, or do you want to stay where you're at? All of those questions will help you answer the question of whether or not you should go to college, or whether you should just stick with your certifications. I can't tell you exactly what to do because I'm in a different situation than you are. So, for me, I felt like it was advantageous to go and get both of them. So I started off with my degree. My last year, or my last 6 months of my 4-year degree, I went ahead and got my CCNA as well. I was taking a less amount of classes because I only needed 2 more to graduate, so I went ahead and used that extra time to study for the CCNA. But that's what I did. I mean, if that's not exactly what you want to do, if your situation doesn't allow it, or isn't advantageous for you, or doesn't provide some kind of return on investment, you shouldn't do it. It's just that plain and simple. You definitely have to learn to make decisions based on your situation, because your situation is definitely different than mine. So I hope that answered the question of whether or not you should go to college, or whether you should just stick to your certifications, or maybe I opened the idea up of perhaps getting both over time. One thing I would recommend is, if you want to go slow starting off college, perhaps get your 2-year degree in what are they called, community colleges, and then perhaps them transferring that associates over to a bachelor's later on in a 4-year college. That's completely up to you again. And again, it's situational. Do you have the money to afford 4-year degree right off the bat, or will you have to do with a 2-year degree for a little bit and perhaps transfer over and get your bachelor's at a later date? So hope this answered your questions, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.